Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Twins Daily post-game, or I guess in-game pint right now. As I speak, it is 9 o'clock on the evening of Saturday, September 5th, 2020. The Twins are tied with the Tigers in the bottom of the ninth, 3-3. Runners on the corners with two outs after Miguel Sano came through with the big game-tying RBI single. So we'll see how this plays out, I guess. John told me that we have to go live at 9 o'clock on the dot. We can't wait until the game ends. So we're gonna see what happens here. But I'm joined tonight by a couple of great Twins Daily writers here. We've got David Youngs and Matthew Trueblood joining us on the show. Gentlemen, thank you for joining. David, how are you doing tonight, man? You having yourself a ninth inning pint here?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks, Nick. Hopefully, we're doing a little live play-by-play here. Our first ever in-game pint. But tonight my pint is a milk and honey cider from Stearns County, Minnesota. You cut out at the last second there, so I couldn't catch if you said something else or not. But what a game we've got here again tonight.
I did not say anything else. I usually say very little of substance, so no need to worry if I cut out for any time period.
Hey,
my
there you go.
sucks, so it just comes with the territory. Matthew, how you doing here as we watch Byron Buxton bat with runners on second and third and two outs? Are you having a drink evening?
I have already had mine for the evening. I had an Indeed Oktoberfest earlier tonight, and then a S6 peach sour, a fuzzy little pucker. Gotta be careful saying that over bad internet, but it's clean, I promise. Both of those were good. Right now, I'm just drinking some water.
All right, sorry to cut out on you for a second there, gentlemen. Matthew, could you just one more time let me know what you're drinking? I missed it there because I cut out for a second.
It's no problem. Just water at this point. I had an Indeed Oktoberfest earlier tonight. Good sour, but just having water now, winding down.
Absolutely.
Very nice, very nice. Well, thanks for joining me. Thanks to everyone listening. You're welcome to go ahead, David.
I was just going to say, they say 8 glasses of water a day keeps the mortician away. It appears that somebody may have cut the cords on Nick's internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, my internet is an absolute disaster as usual. Sorry, guys. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves if I cut out. But as I just watched here while I was logging back on, Byron Buxton has beat out an infield hit, and the Twins have won 4-3. So able to come back and win this one. It was looking pretty grim for a while. David, as you watch here in real time, that the Twins getting this victory, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. What are your immediate takes here?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, great to hear. I'm watching streams, so I'm not even quite there yet. So I'm about to experience the.
Oh, get ready!
Hit, but a win is a win, and it obviously similar to last night. Twins didn't have the bats going. There it is. All right, I just caught up. But the bats weren't cooking again tonight, and it was unfortunate to see Maeda, get a no decision here. Despite what was it? He gave up the initial home run to Reyes, and then what was it? 18 in a row he retired.
Yeah. Awesome outing.
Obviously, unfortunate that he couldn't get the win in the stat column. But great to see the Twins get the job done and get a win after a really quality pitching performance from Maeda.
Absolutely. So with the game now complete in the books here, we take a look at I do see it looks like they're challenging the call at first. I don't think that's going to get overturned, though. It looks like, so we can see here the StatCast final. Twins win it 4-3. They're going to improve to 25-16 on the season. Tigers will fall to 17-20. Twins struggled against Tariq Skubal, the Detroit starter, a talented young left-hander. Not no scrub by any stretch of the imagination, but a guy who is very green and now has had 2 successful outings against the Twins. Miguel Sano, unsurprisingly, leading the way in WPA in this one, followed by Skubal. Twins lineup, I think we're going to be talking about another struggle of a night on offense against a pretty bad pitching staff. But Kenta Maeda, like we said, the 3 earned runs, I don't think do justice to the performance. He only had 3 base runners on in the entire game in 6+ innings. All 3 scored, but 8 strikeouts, 1 walk, 22 swinging strikes. A phenomenal performance there. Matthew, what's your big takeaway from the game now that we have a final score?
I think this is one of those games, and it can be easy sometimes to say about any ugly win, but it's not true of everyone. But this was one of those games where you win ugly over a bad team, and maybe you'd have ideally liked to see things just run a lot more smoothly, dominate in all aspects, that kind of thing. But this is the kind of game that demonstrates the Twins' superiority in a lot of little places over a team like the Tigers. And it's reassuring in that way because these are the wins that the team has kind of missed out on too often over the last couple of weeks. I like to see them kind of be able to keep it close when it looked like the Tigers had a chance to blow it open against Clippard there, to nudge their way back and keep battling against the Detroit relievers who have been really good over this last stretch of a couple of weeks for them. So not just that they won, but the fact that the battle was there tonight. And I think a way that it's been missing a little bit lately. And you saw all the things that this team does well, even on a night when some of the things that they're supposed to do well didn't fall the right way.
Yeah, it was as much as we can complain about the offensive struggles, which continue to be maddening. The pitching staff deserves a lot of credit for keeping them in this game and giving them the opportunity to come back and win it. Seeing some comments here. Anyone who's watching, if you've never tuned into the show before, we love to have people commenting, asking questions. We want to bring you into the show. So feel free to share your thoughts after the game here. I see your fellas says no quit. It was hard to say that earlier in the season, but the Twins are starting to show some fight here in these last few nights with some comeback wins. Buxton, baby, says Logan J. Patrick. First time since July 31st that Buxton and Donaldson were both in the lineup tonight. Didn't do much early on, but then Donaldson draws the walk in the 9th and Buxton is able to drive him in. So ultimately makes all the difference. Really good to have these guys back. I mean, just what they both bring offensively and defensively. And I just think from sort of an energy and leadership standpoint, it's so huge. Matthew, are you just seeing this? Does this just look like a totally different team to you with these guys in the lineup?
I think it's a team that has realized the urgency that they needed to be playing with all along. And you can credit that to Buxton and Donaldson, getting back into the mix. You can credit it to the team meeting they had after the 6th straight loss, I think it was. You can credit it to just the fact that they're in this tight race, as much as some people don't really care about that race at this point. Nick, I know you and I at least are dedicated to this race against Cleveland and Chicago for the AL Central. I think we can draw a lot of narratives about what's led them to that conclusion, but it's clear that this team now kind of gets it, understands that if we're going to draw meaning out of this strange and meaningless kind of season, it's going to have to come from going out there and trying to win every game, making it matter, and showing that you're a great team by being a team that wins tough games under tough circumstances.
I think me, you, and David are all firmly in team win the division, win the division. I know Mr. Bonus is maybe not so much, which, speaking of which, I see Twins Geek popping up in the chat here asking, would Duffy have come in instead of Clippard if Rocco didn't pull Dobnak early yesterday. That's a valid question. I think probably so. What do you think, David? Do you think we would have seen Duffy tonight if not for the early hook on Dobnak?
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think we would have seen the doof. And obviously it was tonight with Clifford. Obviously wasn't the easiest to watch. First two pitches, gave up 2 base hits, line drives, but got the job done still. But I do think, going back to Dobnak in the scenario with him getting pulled early, and I talked about it a little bit yesterday too on yesterday's post-game pint. But, we haven't seen him go deep yet this year. And while that'll be awesome to see, and I'd love to see it happen, I think it's okay too. And I think that, Rocco has confidence in our bullpen. And especially with some of the injured guys in our bullpen, like Littell and Stashak, hopefully coming back soon. Hopefully we'll continue to see that bullpen at full strength. But yeah, going back to your main question, yeah, I think that we probably would have seen Duffy tonight if it weren't for yesterday.
Another question along these lines that's been in my head. Obviously, the bullpen is getting worked a lot just by the nature of the season. All these long runs of games. Right now, they're in the middle of a stretch with 7 games in 5 days. It's hard on even an extended bullpen, right? But what really hits me is the amount of high leverage, kind of stressful appearances that they're seeing. I mean, every game is close. There's been so few opportunities like the 8-1 win against Chicago on Wednesday where you can just kind of bring some guys in and have them throw strikes and coast a little bit. Matthew, do you think that's do you think that's kind of adding up to maybe some of the lapses we've been seeing? Tyler Clippard with a little bit of a slip tonight. And do you think that's going to be a problem down the line here as we get into late September and October?
Yeah, that's one of the costs of being a good team, and particularly a good team that is built around pitching and doesn't consistently blow people out. But the dirty little secret is even really great teams has struggled to consistently blow people out. So if you're a good team, you're going to hold a lot of late leads or be 1 run behind or in a tie late in the late innings, and you're going to want to go to your high leverage relievers, and the mileage starts to pile up on those guys. The Twins are blessed with so much depth that I think it matters less to them than it does to other teams where there's more of a clear hierarchy and a clear division between here's the half of the bullpen we want to use, here's the half we don't. I don't think that it's that stark in Minnesota's case. But Rocco can start doing them favors in a couple of different ways. My take on Dobnak being lifted yesterday, it was after just 61 pitches. And that to me is the key because of the funkiness of their schedule. They had a doubleheader yesterday. They've got a doubleheader on Tuesday. And after that, 2 days off in a row. I think by lifting Dobnak as early as he did yesterday, Rocco could bring Dobnak back for a couple of innings sometime in the doubleheader on Tuesday against St. Louis. So I was fine with him lifting Dobnak aggressively. I think the mistake actually came tonight, and not in not going to a different reliever, but in not trusting Kenta Maeda to work out of his own jam. We really haven't seen Rocco let Kenta try to do that at any point yet this year. And I know Rocco is very dedicated. The Twins as a team are very dedicated to third time through the order, first sign of trouble, you're out of there. But Kenta had only faced 21 batters. He dominated most of them. And it wasn't like either the walk or the hit by Cabrera threw up a ton of red flags. In that situation, I'd have loved to see Rocco just say, I know we're in a tough spot. It's likely they're going to score here, but I kind of trust Kenta to get me through these next 3 outs, maybe with 1 run, maybe with 0, more than I trust Tyler Clippard, as good a veteran as he is. We saw why it was not likely that Clippard was going to put a 0 up in that situation. So maybe stick with Maeda and buy your bullpen that extra inning here and there.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if ever there's a pitcher that you can trust to go a third time through the lineup or even a fourth, it's Kenta Maeda. I mean, the depth and quality of his repertoire almost unparalleled. So yeah, that's a valid thing. But at the same time, I think everything is being done with the long-term view and trying to make sure they're keeping pitchers out of real lengthy, strenuous outings. Keeping strong here with the playoffs all of a sudden coming up. Speaking of guys getting pulled early, a reminder: everyone who's watching, you're welcome to comment. We see your comments. We'd love to chat and pull your thoughts into the conversation. Mike Link asked, "Why did Rooker get pulled?" That was an interesting decision that I think is maybe worthy of some discussion. You know, Rocco showing a lot of confidence in Brent Rooker by batting him cleanup for a second time already in his major league career. But then, yeah, in the fifth inning, after he gets on base, pulls him for Jake Cave. You know, a little bit of a speed advantage, certainly a defensive advantage, but pretty early to make that move. David, what was your read on the decision to pull Rooker so early in the game?
Yeah, well, I think, great point and great question, Mike. I agree. My eyebrows were raised at that a little bit. Like you said, Nick, Cave is certainly defensive advantage and on the base path. He's quicker. But I, at the time, wasn't thrilled about it. And maybe some of that's just now because I was, he had an unsuccessful at bat there in the ninth, was unable to get the bunt down and struck out. But it was unique. But at the same time, I think Jake Cave is somebody who, obviously the Twins are really lucky to have a really strong outfield when everybody is healthy. And sometimes I think we forget that Jake Cave is a really solid outfielder, and he does have his moments of brilliance at the plate. Now that may not necessarily have been tonight, but I think honestly that decision maybe just came down to experience. And I think that even though there's still baseball to be played this year, we're getting down into the time where every game matters, especially in a short season. And maybe that was one of those decisions where Rocco just felt more confident bringing in a more seasoned player. But I don't think it was a jab at Rooker by any means, because Rooker's been fun to watch so far. I know there was some criticism yesterday about him diving for that ball in right field that he missed. At the end of the day, though, and Morneau talked about it a little bit on the broadcast, unless he would have taken a completely different route, that's a tough one to take on the hop too. So I don't think it's fair to judge him based off of that one play, or based off of the very few opportunities he's had, both in the field and at the plate so far this year.
That's a good point. From my standpoint too, I will say that a couple innings later, after Rooker was pulled, I noticed that, a situation came up where the Twins were kind of starting to get something going, and they had Sano, Donaldson, and I think Donaldson, Sano, and then Rooker's spot, which was now Cave, coming up. So with the lefty on the mound, it's like, was he trying to lure them into keeping their lefty out there so he could get the matchup with Cave and coax them into facing Cruz? I would not put it past Rocco to be kind of thinking ahead like that and taking that kind of strategic view. Matthew, what's been your impression of Rooker in general so far, and what did you think about the decision to pull him pretty early in tonight's game?
Yeah, I mean, he's basically as advertised as a hitter, right? I think we'll see if he starts generating a little more loft in the swing as he gets a feel for big league pitching. And, some of that is, from everything I've heard, it's hard to kind of really prepare for game speed and the stuff you're seeing in the big leagues from the alternate site. But all the raw materials are there, and his approach, he has the right idea going to the plate. It's obvious that this guy's not going to be an impressive defender. And I think that, even though technically Cave went in as a pinch runner, that was all about, all right, well, I've gotten Rooker 2 at-bats, and now I want to shore up my defense in the late innings. And in that way, I think it was maybe a hair premature, but I understand where Baldelli's coming from, because Rooker really doesn't seem, he may not be a total liability in the outfield, but it's going to be hard to trust him out there at any point in the foreseeable future. That's okay. He's essentially a bench bat. They're going to get him in the lineup a lot right now because there are so many people who are nursing things, and they're kind of playing matchups trying to get some thunder against lefties. But I'd expect to see him continue to get Rooker off the field as quickly as possible once they feel like they can turn their attention to defense.
Yeah. I want to turn back to Buxton. He had the walk-off hit. I think analyzing where he's at and where he needs to be, in these last 19 games before we get to the playoffs. I mean, I think you can make the argument pretty easily that he's the team's most important player if he's healthy and going good. I mean, we've seen it. We saw it his first game back. He basically won the game for him, made a huge catch, had the go-ahead hit. And tonight, you know, even struggling at the plate through those first 3 at-bats. But I do want to talk about those first 3 at-bats because on the first 2 against the left-handed pitcher, he saw 6 pitches and he swung and missed at all of them. Then grounded out to third in the last one. So, you know, I looked it up. He's swinging at over half of pitches outside the zone, 51% of pitches outside the zone. He's chasing everything. His overall swing percentage, he's swinging at like 62% of all pitches thrown to him, which would lead the major leagues if he had enough bats to qualify. You know, obviously when Buxton can get on base and work himself into favorable counts, we've seen what he can do. And we've even seen what he can do if he hits a ground ball and gets running. But what do you guys think we need to see? Do you think Buxton obviously wanted to be aggressive? I mean, he was going on that home run tear because he was keyed in and taking big cuts early in the count. What do you think, Matthew, is kind of the perfect formula that Buxton needs to find here? And also, I'm wondering, I mean, a lot of the common talk among the analytical crowd and myself is let the guy lift the ball, right? I mean, let him take those uppercut swings and hit home runs. But the way they walked off the game today, you can't argue with this put it on the ground mantra, right?
Yeah, I think everybody, every hitter, every athlete is different. And even if you run really fast, if your most productive swing, as we've seen from Buxton that it is a swing that's going to generate line drives most of the time, then you just let him have that swing. I don't want Buxton worrying too much about swing plane because his swing plane's really very good. When he's at his best, he's lacing doubles. He's not a guy who's popping it up a lot. It's going to be a lot of balls on low line drive trajectories, and that's good no matter how fast you run. It's going to lead to some one-hop grounders that he's going to beat out, you know, because the fielder might not get it cleanly, that kind of thing. Mostly with him, how strong an indicator things like chase rate outside the zone and chase rate on breaking balls, stuff like that, how strong an indicator that is of how locked in a player is varies from hitter to hitter. For Buxton, it's a 10 out of 10. That's what you can look to and say, is he seeing the ball well? Is he in the right mental space? It really does come back to those numbers. Some guys can thrive when they're chasing out of the zone. Some guys can thrive when they're sitting on an occasional breaking ball and trying to attack it. No, Buxton needs to be, my goal in this at bat is to get a fastball in the strike zone and hammer it. When he's in that mode and he's being selective, he's also being aggressive and he's succeeding. When he gets into funks like these, it is about, he starts to lose that laser-like focus on getting the pitch he wants in the place he wants.
Absolutely. You know, seeing Buxton come back and just immediately making huge game-changing plays with his legs, which is frankly just something we don't see from this team. That is the one big shortcoming that I see as I look at this lineup in this offense. The Twins have the fewest stolen bases and stolen base attempts in the major leagues. Without Buxton, they really don't have anyone who can run. You know, I see a comment here. We need a pinch runner on the bench. Do we try to get Billy Hamilton? I mean, that's something that's when Adrianza is the guy coming in to pinch run there at the end of the game. Adrianza is not really giving them anything with the bat, and he's not very fast. So, David, what's your thoughts? Do you think the Twins should try to make some kind of roster move here and get some more speed on the bench for the stretch run and possibly for the playoffs?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point, and I think obviously if there's any time to do it, it's these upcoming weeks here. But yeah, you know, the Twins are not necessarily quick. You know, I think it was I can't remember what game it was, but Adrianza was tagged out at the plate earlier this season, and really opened people's eyes that he's, you know, like you mentioned earlier, you know, when we're bringing in him as a pinch runner, he's not quick. Buxton obviously is that threat on the base path. But yeah, bringing in somebody like Hamilton could certainly be, you know, valuable. I think that, you know, even like we saw in the 9th inning tonight, you know, stealing bases, you know, when it comes down to tight games, it is those little things that matter. So getting runners in scoring position, So yeah, I think that's something that we could see. But back to Buxton, I really hope that down the road here, I really liked what Matthew said about plate discipline, in the sense that, he's not Vlad Guerrero. He's not going to be hitting balls out of the dirt very successfully. He's got to, really show that plate discipline and mental focus. But also, I think would love to see him utilize that weapon of his on the base paths in his speed. So I'm really curious to see what Rocco does in these next coming weeks.
Yeah, I mean, pitchers are going to know these stats of he swings at more than anyone in the league. They're going to start taking advantage of it, and I think we've seen that to some extent. So some adjustments are probably needed, but no one would want to take away the aggressiveness from Byron Buxton. John asks here in the chat, do Rooker and Cave make for a good fourth outfield platoon? I think that's a good question. I think it's a logical deal with the complementary strengths, lefty righty, both young guys who are controllable. And I would even take that a step further. Should they both be seeing, when Kepler comes back, should they be working more heavily into the rotation in left field? And is this maybe your starting left field platoon in 2021? Because I'll tell you what, I'm done with Eddie Rosario. He's not doing anything for me anymore. His defense is terrible. It has not improved from last year when the ankle was sort of being treated as part of the issue. His discipline at the plate is better, but he's not hitting. He's just not having good at bats, and he's not hitting the ball hard. So he's still playing every day in the middle of the lineup. I don't really feel that energy when he comes to the plate. I don't feel that sort of buildup that we're going to have a big moment. And I realize he's a streaky player, and he's on a cold streak right now. He might heat up a little, but there's not a lot of time left for him to turn it around. And given the price tag next year, I really can't see much argument for keeping him around. Matthew, what's your feeling on the Rooker Cave platoon for a fourth outfielder for now, and possibly as the full-time designation in 2021?
Yeah, I mean, Rooker and Cave are both useful as role players. Basically, any role you can slot each of them into where you can hide some of their deficiencies. The less that Rooker has to play the outfield, the less often that Cave has to play center or face left-handed pitching. So they both kind of fit as extra players. It's tough to say like a fourth outfield platoon because you don't really want to platoon the role of fourth outfielder. You want to have a fourth outfielder and a fifth outfielder, right? And have them be able to do different things. But I think that basically works for those two. Looking forward to the rest of the season and 2021. I agree that probably Eddie Rosario's time in a Twins uniform is dwindling here. I think it's probably more likely that by next year, you're talking about which of Kirilloff and Larnach had a more impressive spring training, maybe very early minor league season, and then they're the regular left fielder. And I think that's preferable to having Cave and Rooker working as sort of the old-fashioned platoon because, again, as long as they're in the game, they're each stretched in certain ways, even if they are, you can kind of play them off each other to hide some of their flaws.
Yep. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. David, what's your feeling about those two as a platoon for the fourth outfielder spot for now? Possibly something more, and no, Katie, possibly something more in 2021. And what's your vibe about Rosario? Do you have confidence in Rosario to turn around and be the big time Eddie that we know and love in the late season and the playoffs here? Or are you losing faith a little bit like I am?
Yeah, well, I gotta say I have a special place in my heart for Rosie, and he's an electric player when he's on. We've seen him this year make some excellent throws from left to get guys at second. And in prior years, we've seen his power at the plate, but we're talking about plate discipline earlier. It's that's obviously it's a weakness for him, and he's somebody who maybe has more of a longer leash when it comes to swinging at pitches outside the zone, but still, the best Major League Baseball outfielders that we see, and just players in general, have consistency, whether it's baseball or any other sport. The best players are going to be consistent, and he has not been super consistent. And it makes me sad because, that thought of, a couple of years ago when we were thinking, man, our outfield is going to be Kepler, Rosario, Buxton. I mean, that's stellar. And obviously, with injuries and, streakiness, things like that, it hasn't necessarily amounted to what we maybe thought it was going to be. So I'm not ready to give up on Eddie quite yet. But I certainly will agree with you, Nick, that, it has not been a great year for him. And it looks like you're bringing up some stuff on him right now. When it comes to Rooker, though, I do like Rooker, and I think there's some potential there. And I could, if let's say Rosario is not wearing a Twins uniform next year, I think that Rooker and Cave could be a good platoon there because obviously you've got the righty lefty, but also Jake Cave is really solid in the field. Jake Cave could be a starting outfielder on a good number of MLB teams, and Rooker obviously has got a ways to go, and his strong suit isn't going to be in the field, but he can hit the ball pretty hard.
Yeah. Heath in the chat asks, is Rooker the future DH with Cruz at the end of his career and due for free agency? That's a good point, and he might be auditioning for that right now. And maybe that's another place where both Cruz and Rooker could fit in. And the Twins would. It's not a bad idea to use the DH spot as sort of a platoon and rotate some of your players through it who have utility elsewhere. So you're not dedicating a roster spot to someone with no defensive value. I think you take that sacrifice with a guy like Cruz, but I don't know if I would do it with lesser bats. So that's another thing to keep in mind. George says non-tender Rosario, barring postseason heroics. Let's see what the kids do next year. And as Matthew mentioned, of course, Larnach and Kirilloff are going to be in that discussion as well. So let's move the discussion a little bit here as we start to wind down. Let's talk about what's up next. As we mentioned, it's a weird period in the schedule here. The Twins have sealed up a series victory in this strange 5-game series at Target Field. So they're aiming to win 4 or 5 or possibly all 5, which would be great, obviously. I think I haven't seen the final scores from the White Sox or Indians games tonight, but they were both winning last I checked. So it's a tight race. I mean, every game is big if you care. If you care about winning the division, not everyone does, and there's an argument to be made. I know that Rena, one of our Twins Daily writers, wrote on the site the other day about how the Twins actually might put themselves in better position for the postseason by not winning the division. So I recommend going to check that out if you're interested in seeing that perspective. But it's a weird deal. Tomorrow it's going to be Casey Mize versus Rich Hill, which I'm very curious to see how Hill looks coming off a rough outing, losing kind of command of his curveball last time. So we'll see if he can get that curveball working for him. He's only got 3 or 4 starts left at most until the playoffs, and really needs to make an impression and should give them some reason to have confidence. I think he's got the experience. I think that they signed him with the idea that he could be that postseason bulldog who's been there before. But I don't know how you could slot him ahead of Pineda, Maeda, Barrios, even Dobnak right now. I mean, is Hill going to be more of a swingman, long reliever in the playoffs? I don't know. He's making his case right now, and I think the Twins would really like it if he could go a little deeper tomorrow, so that they don't have to burn through their bullpen with another game coming and then a doubleheader the day following. Matthew, what are you looking for tomorrow from Rich Hill and from the Twins in general?
Well, I wrote this past week about the cutter that Hill has added back into his repertoire over the last few starts, and he used it only very sparingly. I think only 2 total cutters and none in the inning in which he got in all that trouble against the White Sox. I want to see if he can bring that pitch back the way he had it going against Cleveland. But mostly, I just want to see if he can get through an entire outing and sort of maintain his feel. One of my colleagues at Baseball Prospectus, Rob Arthur, sort of documents the composition and the effects of the baseball, the ever-changing aerodynamics and sort of makeup of the actual surface of the ball for us. And according to his research, it's really inconsistent this year, which can mean things like differing seam heights, differing seam sort of toughness. And that can be really tough on a pitcher like Hill, who relies so much on a feel for spin to maintain his effectiveness. And Hill's also obviously had limited opportunities to get used to that, if that's really what's going on this year, because of his injury issues throughout the season. So I want to see the feel for that cutter, the feel for the fastball and curve just throughout the game, and if he can maintain it a bit, and just hopefully a little forward progress. I think ultimately, at this point, if things go the way the Twins hope they'll go, he is going to end up in the playoff bullpen. But he can be a huge multi-inning weapon in that bullpen, especially as a piggyback to a guy that you don't necessarily want the opponent to see a third time, like a Randy Dobnak. So he's still an important pitcher to this team. Seeing him make forward progress tomorrow is important, even though if you were envisioning him as like your game 3 starter in the playoffs earlier in the year, I think we're a little bit past those dreams unless things really turn around fast for him.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the idea of Rich Hill as like a piggyback on someone like Dobnak is really interesting, going from the young sinker baller who's just pounding the zone, lower part of the zone, to a straight fastball, curveball guy who's coming from the left side with a very different look. That could be kind of interesting to think about. And Rocco's going to have a lot of different mixes like that to play with as he starts to size up what his postseason strategy is going to be. David, what are you looking for tomorrow here and in the last couple of games here against Detroit as the Twins try to close out this series?
Yeah, well, I think that obviously it's great that clinched the series today, but that's not enough. We're getting down to crunch time, like you mentioned. I think I also haven't seen the results of the Indians and the White Sox, but looked like they were both up. But it's a close race, and this is a wonderful opportunity tomorrow for Rich Hill to put up a quality start against a Tigers team who does not have stellar offense. I agree with you, Matthew, that I think that in postseason baseball, I think we're going to see maybe Rich Hill in the bullpen as a long inning guy. But it's, you want to cheer for the guy. He's got a unique story. He's been around a long time, and I think he can be a weapon for the Twins, coming from the left side. And as far as the rest of this series, if the Twins can get 4 out of 5, I'll be really happy. That's obviously easier said than done. I just have confirmed here from an outside source that both the White Sox and Indians did win. So we are, so that's the case. But if they could somehow sweep the series, that'd be awesome. I know that the Twins Ballgame Simulator 5000 on the Hey It's Corey Heppola show predicted they'd get 4 out of 5. So that thing doesn't lie too often, but tomorrow will be another excellent opportunity. Really waiting for the Twins to have that offensive breakout again. I think the last big number we put up was that 8-hole against the White Sox. But we'll see. And before I shut up, I got to give a shout out to Ryan Jeffers tonight. Cannon the runner from his knees at second. That was fun to watch, and he's another one where obviously young player. He's got some pop at the plate, but he's good. He's good behind the dish too. And as a former catcher, I had to give him some recognition, and fun to watch him play tonight.
That's a great point. He's been phenomenal defensively, I think, especially given the fact that he's a rookie catching these pitchers for the first time. He has a comfort level and a smoothness to him that you very rarely see out of a catcher who's so new to the big leagues. Another young guy who impressed tonight, and I think we can't leave without talking about a little bit, is Jorge Alcala. This guy, he's become a true bullpen asset. I'll admit I don't criticize this front office for much because I think they've done a fantastic job. I was a little hard on him for the Presley trade, but even that is now starting to look like a great move. I mean, I'd rather have Alcala than Presley, and you still got Celestino down in the minors. Matthew, any thoughts on Alcala with another really strong performance tonight, throwing strikes, getting strikeouts?
Yeah, I mean, he is a lot of fun to watch at the moment. I think they still haven't called on him very often as the late and with a close lead kind of guy. And obviously his one big audition in that role was in the game Rich Hill pitched against Cleveland not so long ago, and that didn't end that well. But that's kind of the last hurdle that's left for him to clear, is to say, can you be the guy who steps up and holds a slim lead in the late innings? He's shown everything else. We know the stuff is there. The command is improving. I think especially the command of the slider, that he is able to get people cheating and trying to make sure they're going to catch up to 100, and then throw the slider and make it a competitive pitch just about every time. That's a big difference maker. The only things left are some of those mental questions, and hopefully they'll get a chance. Not that there's any reason to doubt him in that regard, but you just want to see him prove it. So hopefully over these last few weeks, they'll get a chance to put him in a couple of those tough spots and give him a taste of success in that kind of role. Because if you're going to carry him, not only carry him as part of the playoff bullpen, but trust him if it comes to it in a really important spot in the playoffs, you'd like it not to be the first time that he's come in and had success doing that kind of thing.
Agreed. And it's big to build his confidence up a little bit. I think, one of the few times where he has come in a huge spot, the really tough outing, I think that was against Cleveland, where he gave up a lead or broke a tie game. But he's got the stuff. He's absolutely got the stuff to be a serious factor in the postseason. Twins will try to make their way there. We're down to 19 games left here. We are really in the home stretch. As David mentioned, both the other top contenders in the division winning tonight. So the division race stays razor tight. Seth mentions in the chat, I know he was watching the post game, that Baldelli has said they do not plan to use Dobnak on short rest at this time. We'll see. They're going to have some interesting decisions with managing the pitching staff in these next few days. A lot of ball games. They're playing a lot of baseball in a short span here. So huge thank you to everyone joining us here in the chat tonight. A lot of great comments, very active. I think people are real excited to see the Twins getting back into a great place. 5-game winning streak coming off the 6-game losing streak. They have completely turned things around. Offense still has some work to do. Hopefully we'll see them break out a little bit tomorrow against Casey Mize. You got to wonder how much longer Detroit can continue to hold them down. I mean, my goodness, the Tigers are allowing 5.7 runs on average to all teams other than the Twins. The Twins are averaging 2.2 runs coming into tonight's game. A little better. They get 4 runs across, which is a new season high. But Twins offense needs to start clicking and building some confidence for the postseason. So thank you to everyone for watching. Postgamepint.com. You can always check in, find a link to the next episode. I don't believe we'll have a post-game show tomorrow, but we should have some lined up for next week. And of course, you can always subscribe to the podcast. You can listen to the previous night's episode the next morning with your cereal. You can always check it out on YouTube. We have the videos, and you can find all that stuff at postgamepint.com. David, I have to say one thing before I go. I just noticed this now. You look a little bit like a Joe Mauer circa age 22, 23 here. Has anyone ever told you that before?
I tell you what, I get that pretty much about every day. That is the utmost compliment that I could ever receive. So thank you. The sideburns aren't coming in right now quite yet, but a few weeks from now they should be good to go. I do drink a lot of Kemp's milk, so that'll hopefully speed it up quite a bit. But thank you very much.
Thank you. Hopefully someone will stumble upon this broadcast and actually think we're legitimate for some reason. So, oh wow, Joe.
Yeah, you never know.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again here tonight, David. You were awesome as usual. Matthew, thank you as well. Tons of great insights. Any final thoughts here before we sign off for the evening?
I think I'm spent. It's a good game.
All right. Make sure to check out Matthew's article on Rich Hill and his cutter. You might have to scroll. We got tons of new stuff going up on Twins Daily these days. Lots of great contributions. So you might have to scroll to the next page. But I think that'll be a real good read ahead of Rich Hill's start tomorrow. A big one against Casey Mize and the Detroit Tigers. Thank you to Matthew and David. Thank you to all the people who joined us tonight and commented. And we'll catch you on the next post-game pint. Go Twins.
Win Twins.